Time now for the exchange. Joining me now is Khaled Elgindy, a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute and author of Blind Spot, America and the Palestinians from Balfour to Trump. Khaled, thank you so much for being with us. So when you look at what Isaac Herzog just said there on X, saying, listen, we don't necessarily want war. A lot of people actually look at the series of attacks this week, both the attacks on communication devices and also the targeted strike we saw today, and say, it looks as though Israel is actually trying to goad Hezbollah into a war. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's. I think it is what it looks like. I think we need to take Netanyahu at his word, and we know what his calculations are. I mean, he needs the war to continue in Gaza, and as long as that war continues, he needs that in order to stay in power. And as long as that war continues, then the front with Hezbollah to the north will also remain open. And we've seen a gradual escalation. I mean, the pager attack, I think, was really unprecedented in the kind of the scale. Thousands of individuals, and of course the airstrikes today, which I wouldn't really call targeted. I mean, we've seen reports of at least many civilians killed, and including 5 children, as the reports that I've seen. So I think we're in a place where you have an extremist government in Israel that is trying to instill what they consider to be a deterrent. Israel's doctrine of deterrence is based on inflicting so much damage and terror on the other side that they will simply stop responding, even when they're attacked. And that's a very dangerous approach, as we've seen, that it has only led to more escalation. And so unless there are kind of rational, cooler heads that can prevail and sort of talk everyone down, whether it's Hezbollah or its allies or Netanyahu, I think there's an urgent need to do something different than what's been done the past 12 months.
So you're saying, look, it is what it looks like, and that is Netanyahu needs a war to stay in power, and that he is probably trying to goad Hezbollah into a war. But Hezbollah isn't necessarily an easy win for Israel. When you think about the number of fighters, anywhere from between 50,000 to 100,000 fighters, depending on what your source is, and then also on top of that, around 150,000 rockets and 150,000 missiles, just in terms of how much of a formidable foe Hezbollah is for Israel. You look at the war in 2006 and it ended in more or less a stalemate. So just walk us through how much of a risky calculation it is for Israel as well.
Yeah, I think it's an extremely risky calculation. And again, I think their goal is trying to deter the other side by sort of out-terrorizing the other side. But, all we have to do is look at Gaza. Hamas has not been destroyed, even after almost a full year of really unprecedented scale of death and destruction. Gaza's been destroyed, but Hamas hasn't. Hezbollah is a much more powerful foe than Hamas in terms of its military sophistication, its command and control in every way. And so I think the Israelis understand this, and that's why we're not seeing a full-on invasion. But I think we've already crossed the Rubicon in the sense that we're no longer at the brink of war. Israel and Hezbollah are at war. It's just a question of the scale of that war. Will it be contained or de-escalated, or will it continue this upward cycle toward something much more destructive? So yes, I think Israel is moving much more slowly with regard to Lebanon than it has done in Gaza, for example. But its current trajectory makes, I think, an even more intensive war almost inevitable.
I'm just being told that the death toll from these strikes has actually risen to 12. But what does de-escalation actually look like at this point in time? Nasrallah is between a rock and a hard place. He has to respond somehow. He has to show that the organization won't be defeated by the IDF. How does he do that? And is there any kind of diplomatic solution that would actually allow both sides, or especially Hezbollah, to save face here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're right. I think Hezbollah has to respond, and that's the fatal flaw in Israel's logic of deterrence. Hezbollah will have to respond in some capacity, in a way that they consider to be commensurate with the attacks on Lebanon. I think the way out of this, I mean, Hezbollah has said that they will continue to attack Israel as long as the Gaza war continues. And so I think even the United States understands, as Israel's closest ally, that the best way to contain a all-out regional war is by getting a ceasefire in Gaza. But we're obviously not there. And in fact, the administration is now signaling that, well, we probably won't see a ceasefire in the remainder of President Biden's term. And so we are in a kind of no-holds-barred escalatory situation in which both sides have an interest in avoiding greater violence, but also an interest in maintaining what they consider to be deterrent from the other side. Because if Hezbollah simply doesn't respond, then they're conceding to all of Lebanon and, frankly, to the region, that Israel can act with impunity and not expect any sort of response. And obviously, Israel will make a similar calculation.
Right, Khaled Elgindy, live for us there, author of Blind Spot. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it. We'll be right back with more after this short break.